Hello, I'm Tracy from MeetRx. We're here today with another success story. I have a very special guest. Her name is Kate Cretsinger. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Tracy. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm so happy to have you today. I wanted to let everyone know that you graduated from the University of New England in 2004 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Exercise Science, and you're a certified NAF health and fitness coach and a certified nutrition coach, and you have your own podcast, Kate for Wellness podcast, and you're the owner of Kate for 8 Wellness, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you have online nutrition coaching that you do.
Correct.
So can we begin by can you tell me what was life like before Carnivore, before you became meat-based?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll gladly share that. I was raised, as we were talking offline beforehand, the typical standard American diet. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so we were very limited to the things that we would eat, and so it was usually the pasta, the rice, everything that was cheaper to get in bulk kind of thing. So that's what we were raised on. And I found that looking back over time, I was always on antibiotics. I was always sick, had something going on, some kind of upper respiratory infection. Usually pneumonia is what I had, or strep throat, sometimes both during the year, which was kind of sad. I found that I was on antibiotics a lot. When I was in my, I want to say mid-20s, late 20s, when I was going to school, going to college, and I had some nutrition classes, that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I was like, okay, I need to start eating healthier. And so I started more, I was a vegetarian, but I had more carbs. And so I was like, okay, I need to start cutting back on the carbs and not having so many. And when I did that, I noticed I got a lot healthier. And if we fast forward probably up until about 8 years ago, I ended up doing the vegetarian keto. And, in every step that I did, I felt better every time that I did. So what I mean by feeling better, I would wake up with bloody noses. My pillow would be saturated with blood. I'd have migraines. Migraines was a regular occurrence for me. I'd have it probably about 4 or 5 times a week. And I learned how to just accept it, because I would go to the doctor's office and they would do MRIs just to check and see what was going on. And it would come back, and basically what they said, it was all in my head, no pun intended, but they said it was all in your head. Here's some medications, go on your way. And I wasn't a big medication person, so I refused to take it. I just learned how to deal with the pain. And I don't know if you've ever had a migraine, Tracy, but it doesn't feel good. You get very nauseous. You lose your peripheral vision, so everything's tunnel vision. It's just not an all-around good feeling. And I was a single mom at the time, raising 2 kids. I was also going to school full-time, going to college full-time, and then I would also work full-time. So, having to deal, I didn't have time to deal with that. Let's just put it that way. And the kids came first, and, trying to do the best I could with little money that I was making and feeding them, knowing what I know now, I still wasn't feeding them well, so it still kind of stings. But yeah, so if I fast forward, to when I started doing the vegetarian keto, I noticed a lot of things started to get better. The migraines went away, but I would still have, the bloody noses went away, but I still had the migraines. I still had rashes, hives for certain things that I would eat. I'd still have the bloating, that kind of stuff. But what I really loved was the benefits of having a clear brain. It felt like I had, awareness, and everything was very sharp is what it felt like. And a lot of people say, brain fog, when that lifts, what that feels like, it's hard to put into words, but that's exactly what was happening. The brain fog lifted. And so that made me really happy. And I was like, okay, I'm healing. I've totally healed. I lost some weight. Not that weight is what I focus on, but it let me know that I got rid of some inflammation. So then if I go to when I went carnivore, which was exactly a year ago today, this is my anniversary today for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Happy carniversary. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's super exciting. I've been so excited about it today. And what better way to celebrate than with you? And so just even one day of being carnivore, I noticed that the bloating went away. And that to me I was like, oh, I thought I got rid of most of the bloating. But no, I still had some. Then I ended up having fewer and fewer headaches. Those migraines started becoming fewer and fewer. It's been a long time since I've had one. I noticed after the first week of being carnivore, my gums no longer bled, and I had bleeding gums since I was a teenager. So that went away. The hair in the shower stopped clogging the shower. I used to have to take a shower and then clean my hair out of the drain. Don't have to do that now. This is the thickest my hair has ever been, which is surprising. I mean, every girl wants that as they get older, right? Because usually it's the opposite. It gets thinner. The food cravings went away. The mood swings went away. Even when we have our monthly cycle, I had a lot of negative thoughts, angry thoughts. All of that has gone away. Increased energy, increased focus. It was just great. I had a lot of bad self-talk too, internally. I did a lot of self-negative talk. That has totally gone by the wayside. And some good side effects from that too is obviously I did shed some weight. Not that I was looking to do that because I was pretty fit to begin with. But I also saw an increase in my performance as a weightlifter and an endurance athlete. So, I got those benefits from it as well. Those, I call them side effects, good side effects. But how I implemented it, that was the other question that you asked. How did I implement this? I'll tell you, Tracy, it took me 8 months to commit. I was a vegetarian. I would only eat meat a handful of times throughout the year, maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the year, the whole time I was vegetarian. And I did it when my body absolutely craved it. That was the only time I ate it. And it was usually around my cycle when it craved it. But when I ate it, it was burger, because it had to be cooked all the way through. For me, it was texture. It wasn't unethical. It wasn't anything along those lines. It was just the texture. I couldn't get past the texture.
So did you do juicing also? I was thinking, I heard you say you did juicing for a period of time.
I did juicing. I actually did it for 8 months. It was called the Gerson's therapy. I did it because I didn't know what I had. I never got diagnosed. I totally lost faith in the medical community because I had those migraines with bloody noses and they were telling me nothing was wrong with me and they just wanted to give me medication. So I totally lost help with those guys or faith in those guys. So I just did it on my own. So I treated it like I had cancer. I don't know if that's what I had, but I treated it that way. Did the Gerson's therapy where I had like 8 juices a day. And I had like 5 avocados a day, so I made sure I got my fats because I was an athlete. I had to keep moving. I needed energy. And I got so emaciated. I mean, I was so skinny. I'm 130 pounds now. I was 110 pounds then, which just wasn't good. And I don't know how I still had the energy to go running and to do all the stuff that I was doing. I was doing CrossFit 5 times a week. I mean, it was just a lot.
Oh my goodness.
So I think a lot of, you and I were talking offline, a lot of it was also things that needed to heal internally. And what was I running from? What was the issue? And obviously I wasn't happy at that time in my life, and everything has come full circle. I believe all of it's connected. So along with changing the way I was eating, I also did a lot of looking within, healing within, and finding whatever that spirituality means for people. Some people it's religion, some people it's just being outside. Whatever that means for people, we need to find it because that's usually the missing link. And that helps a lot with not just nutrition, but also the mindset. So I did a lot of juicing, and I did, high keto stuff, high fat stuff. I did keto, and then 8 months of intense research. So I came across Sean Baker and what he was doing. And I was like, wow, all meat? That's unbelievable. I doubt that. And so I started digging a little deeper, and there were people that had been doing it for 15, 20 years. And I came across Amber O'Hearn, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I came across the Petersons and heard their stories. And I said, okay, something's up with this. And being a nutrition coach myself, I had patients that were not healing 100%. And I know there's some issues with being 100% strict and doing exactly what I say. I know, but there were those few that I knew were doing exactly what I had asked them to do, and they still were not healing. There was something missing. So I used my daughter as a guinea pig. I put her on it first. And I knew she'd tell me everything. So I put her on it first. And then I put on a couple of my Crohn's patients, a couple of my diabetics, a couple of my stage 4 cancer patients. So I put them on it. Wow. I mean, miracles, as they called it. And it's amazing what our body can do when we remove the interference and we remove the inflammatory responses, or things that cause those inflammatory responses. They miraculously healed. And, they were like, what's going on? Why? How does this happen? So me seeing that with them and seeing what was going on with my daughter. Now, my daughter has dealt with depression since she was a teenager, and she's 30 years old now. She came off her medications for depression and anxiety. She's lost 85 pounds. I mean, it wasn't about losing the weight, but the fact that she now feels good about herself, and it all is connected. And to see her go through those changes was astounding. And then seeing my clients go through it was even more astounding, especially for these types of diseases that are touted as not having any cure. So it was just very powerful to see that. So I said, okay, well, there must be something in it for me too. If these guys are seeing benefits, there's still a little bit of things left that I'm still experiencing. So why not try it? I don't usually have my clients do stuff and not me do it. So it took 8 months for me to build up the guts to do it because of the texture. I was like, what am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? So I did my research. I found some ethical meat. I told myself, if I'm going to do it, it has to be grass-fed, grass-finished. It has to come from a farm that I know, that I can go visit, and I can see that they're happy cows. Even though it wasn't an ethical issue for me, that still matters to me. And so I live in New Hampshire. We have beautiful farms around us. So I was able to go do some research there and get some food, some meat from there, stocked up my freezer. We have a big freezer in the basement, stocked it up with meat. And then I started, and it was August 11th of last year. It was the first couple weeks was kind of, I don't know what the best word for this was, but my bowel movements, like what people talk about, most people say they don't go to the bathroom for a while. I had the opposite problem. I couldn't stop going to the bathroom, and I couldn't be far from the bathroom. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Maybe this isn't right. And, when I dug a little deeper, because I had been vegetarian for so long, I didn't quite have the enzymes yet to break that stuff down. So instead of jumping in feet first, I probably should have added it in gradually. But I said, okay, it's an all or nothing thing if I'm going to do this because of the texture. And I told myself I was only going to do it for 30 days. That's all I was going to do. And then that 30 days I reevaluated. And I said, oh, well, I got all these, I have more mental clarity than ever. My gums stopped bleeding. My hair stopped falling out. I don't have any more bloating. I can't believe the energy levels that I have. And everybody always told me that I had high energy anyway, and I don't do caffeine. And they're like, I can't see you on caffeine. So for me to have more energy is crazy. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do another 30 days. Well, that 30 days ended up to be another year, a whole year. And I honestly, once I got started, it was easy. After that first 2 week period of dealing with, the bowel issues, after that, it was awesome. Like it was easier to eat out when I would go out to the farm to table places. It was easier to eat out because I didn't have to worry about what kind of vegetables were in there, and because I would have some reactions to certain vegetables. So I didn't have to worry about that stuff anymore. So I just grill my meat, you know? So it ended up being easier when I thought it was going to be harder. 2 months into being carnivore, I traveled to California to see my son, and there's a lot of awesome grass-fed places out there, restaurants like Bel Campo and what have you, and loved those places. And my son and my daughter-in-law did the same thing. They were eating carnivore. So and nobody looked at us like we were silly, you know, like when we asked just for the burger, not the bun, no vegetables, nothing. Because you guys are used to seeing that stuff out in California. So it was quite the journey to get to where I am today. And it's very rare for people here on the East Coast, up in the Northeast, to be eating this way. So I always find myself having to explain what I'm doing. They're like, what? You're not eating vegetables? I'm like, no. Can you go to the bathroom? I'm like, yes. If anything, it's now consistent. It's every day. And it's, you know, so it's just really fun. And I don't think I'm going to change much if I do.
Wow. That's an incredible story, and what great healing you had.
Oh, amazing.
So if you eat that way in California, it's not unusual, but in the Northeast, it's really strange, and you're oddball.
Yeah, I'm a very big oddball. They look at me like, what are you doing? You know? Yeah, it's kind of interesting. One thing I didn't mention was when I was on the journey of doing my carnivore, at day 100, I had one mushroom, and I thought I escaped the side effects. I woke up at 2:00 in the morning to my legs on fire. I had hives. Now, normally that would happen immediately after I ate it. So that was a really good sign for me that my body's healing. And then at day 200, I had sweet potatoes. Oh no, it was butternut squash. Excuse me. I had a butternut squash, just one bite, like not even a full teaspoon, just a bite. And I had a migraine, and I had some hives after that. And that took about 48 hours to pop up. So my body's still healing, and I don't miss any of that stuff. I was just in the process of getting ready to do a huge bike ride, and I was wondering if I was going to need carbs or not. And the carbs I was looking at were the you know, like the squashes and things like that, to help me through that. But I just did the bike ride, and I didn't need carbs at all, and I didn't need sugar. So it doesn't matter if I can have that stuff now or not. So, yeah.
Wow. So so do you ride a bike often?
I do. I love being, you know, moving a lot and being outside and getting some good exercise every day. So I do a long bike ride on my road bike. And then I also do a very technical ride through the woods, through trees. They call it single track, with my mountain bike once a week. So I allow myself to go above my fat heart rate burning zone twice a week. And in doing that, I've gotten faster, and which is really neat. You know, so just working at the fat burning zone is helping me to perform better as well. So this whole approach of nutrition and the fat burning zone training has totally increased my performance in the athletic realm as well. So just teaching my body to be a good fat burner. And that's why I keep it at the fat burning zone most of the time. And I only allow myself to go above that heart rate twice a week. That's it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned your son is carnivore and his wife, and then your daughter, you had put her on it. Is there anyone else in your family or close to you that is doing carnivore?
No. My husband, I think, is more carnivore than he wants to be. It's funny because when him and I first met, he didn't eat vegetables at all. And so here comes this vegetarian into his life and incorporates more vegetables for him. And now I've kind of totally flopped over to, it's like, talk about total extremes, right? So no meat to all meat and no vegetables. And so he does sometimes like, oh, I don't want to have that tonight, you know, and because he's good at intuitively listening to his body too. But my son and his wife they didn't continue on with carnivore. They only did it for a couple months. And but my daughter and her husband are still carnivore, and they still do that. So it's really nice to have them. They're close by, just to help her through a lot of the the issues that she's having and help her heal. Cause she's 30 years old and they like to mingle and be social. And so she still has alcohol here and there, ones that are not made with grains. So that's good. But it's still, as we know, that still affects the body and it still causes inflammation. So she still has some things that she's trying to work through.
Oh, wow.
She's not ready to be 100% strict. So
yeah, that's awesome. But so you said that you are strict carnivore.
yes.
Can you describe that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first 2 months when I came into carnivore, I kept my avocados because I'm such an active person. I know that our body needs fat or carbs to do the stuff that we want to do. So I kept avocados. And before I came carnivore, I ate 4 to 5 avocados a day. So I didn't really want to get rid of my staple just yet. And so I kept that on. And I would only have maybe 1 or 2 when I was when I first started carnivore. I actually started eating only 2 to 1 meal a day. Whereas when I was vegetarian keto, sometimes I'd have a snack in between my meals, but I only allowed myself to have a snack within a certain window. So I was still kind of fasting. I would only give myself a 5-hour window to eat. And so if in the middle of that I was hungry, I would eat. And usually I was still hungry. And obviously what we know now, when the body doesn't get the right amount of protein, it's going to still be hungry. I will say my fasting times when I was vegetarian were hard. I was constantly thinking about my next meal. When's my next meal? When can I have this? Oh gosh, is it time yet? Can I have my meal? Can I have my snack? I don't think about that anymore. Now it's when my belly grumbles, I eat. And usually I eat between 11 and 5 o'clock. I'm done eating at 5. And some days it's just 1 meal. Some days it's 2. After I do a huge bike ride, I sometimes eat more than 2 meals, but that's only if my belly grumbles. I allow myself to do that. But for the most part, I do a lot of fasting. So I love incorporating the whole thing. I'm all about, if I'm going to eat this, I got to eat organ meats and that stuff as well. I tried that. Didn't like liver. I really tried. The only supplements that I will do is Ancestral Supplements. And that's only because there's nothing in it. Usually most supplements have a lot of fillers, and Ancestral Supplements only has the desiccated part of the animal, nothing but that. So I will do that once a week. I'll take a supplement for that. Or what I'll do is get a beef mix, a hamburger mix that has kidney, heart, and liver and spleen in it, and have it as a burger that way. And it just covers up the flavor of the iron taste that you get from the liver. So I do incorporate those. I also love to have, I'll do some kind of a seafood once or twice a week. So like raw oysters, I'll try and do that because they're very nutrient dense. So I'm all about that. They're right at the top of the list. I love eggs. So I'll eat lots of eggs. And then my other go-to is sardines. I just love sardines, and I'll just eat those with some eggs, or I'll just eat it with some of the beef. And then just recently, this past month, I've become addicted to crab meat. I just love the crab meat with my steak. So I tend to eat the fattier cuts of steak, like a ribeye or a New York sirloin, flat iron. Those are usually my 3 go-tos. I will do that. And then occasionally I'll do a pot roast. I'll just I'll put it in the Instant Pot, a bottom roast and a rump roast, and put in some of my own beef broth that I make and bone broth, and just cook that in my Instant Pot and sip on the juice and eat the meat that way. And then I love starting my day off with a bone broth, while my meal's cooking, my steak's cooking, I'll have a cup of bone broth that I've made with some grass-fed bones. So that's what a typical meal looks like. It's not that big of a variety, but I don't feel like I need it. I feel like I'm getting everything that I need because I feel good and I don't feel any cravings for anything. So when you feel that way, you're getting everything that you need.
Yeah. So do you still include avocados, and also do you ever eat chicken or
No, I
pork?
don't.
No
Oh,
chicken.
pork I will. Pork I'll eat, when I have bacon, but I love the beef bacon over the pork bacon. But when you can't find the beef bacon, I just get the pork bacon. So I will have that. It's just very rare that I have it. So bacon is always a good thing. I don't eat chicken. I have a hard time with the texture of that still. And just the thought of, I can't do bones, like pulling the meat off the bones, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of bothers me. But if I were to get the actual bones with the marrow in it, I'm okay with that. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it either.
Oh, yeah.
Our rationale between those things that gross us out and we're afraid of just doesn't make sense. It's irrational. But yeah. So
it's what happens, though. It happens.
Yes.
So have you ever tried lamb? Do you like lamb? Or
I will. I have tried lamb chops. They're not my favorite. They taste a little too gamey for me. Same with like venison or elk or, those kind of gamey meats for me are I try and incorporate them when I can. It's not something that I do on a regular basis, just because of the gaminess that I taste with that. Although the lamb shank that I put with bone broth, my beef bone broth, and I put that in the Instant Pot, that seems to be okay. But when I, try like the lamb chops or things, it just doesn't taste that great to me. And I know it's probably all in preparation. So I just got to learn how to cook that the right way.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you really incorporate several things, though, so you don't get too bored. And
No, I don't. And always have, some kind of a seafood throughout the week, once or twice a week, but mostly it's beef and eggs for the most part. That's my staples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's delicious.
Yeah, it is delicious. I look for it. It's so funny. Like my kids, when I first started eating it, they would laugh. They'd say, I can't, it's hard seeing you eat that steak. And the steak had bone marrow on top of it, and it was purple in the middle. It wasn't even like cooked, because before I had to have it burnt almost before I would even eat it. Now it's very rare, and it's, they can't wrap their head around it. They're like, it's just so weird seeing you eat that way, because you've never eaten that way. So it's really fun, to see their reactions when I pull out this big steak with marrow on top of it, and it's pink in the middle or purple in the middle, because it's just really rare.
Right.
So it's really fun to experiment with different things too. I'm not ever going to say no. I would definitely love to learn how to cook lamb better and continue to find the love for the organ meats, because I know that's where a lot of nutrition is too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look great. I can't believe you have a 30-year-old daughter.
Thank you. It's hard to believe too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Makes me feel old.
You're so toned and everything too. Do you do other workouts? You said before that you used to work five days a week. You'd work out. Do you still do other workouts besides your biking?
I do. I still do. I use bands a lot and some dumbbells, but I don't do anything really heavy. I just do it just to stay toned, and just to build some muscle, because I know as we age, that's what goes first is our muscle. And that's what keeps us living longer and not as frail. So that, to me, it's important to build that. So yeah, I'll do resistance bands, whatever I feel like doing for that day. I only spend like 20 minutes I'll probably do like 4 or 5 movements, and that's it. I don't do anything. The majority of my working out is cardio. So like today I went for an hour walk, and I love to walk. So it's usually walking, other than those 2 bike rides that I do now.
Right. Walking is my favorite, actually, too.
So good for us. So good for us. Once the gyms start opening again, I'll go back to rock climbing once a week. But, other than that, it's just walking, just the moving. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. It really helps you with your mental state and everything. I mean, not just the exercise for your body, but
yes,
many things.
Many things. Grounding yourself, getting out there, being with nature is amazing.
Yeah.
We need to do it more.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for sharing all your information. And can you tell people how to connect with you? Because I know you're a wellness coach, and if they're looking for one, I know they would love to find you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, I have, it's the K8 for Wellness is the name of my company. And you can do k8forwellness.com. And that's the letter K, the number 8, the number 4, wellness.com. And it's the same handle for Facebook and for Instagram as well. So you guys can find me on all those platforms. And then the podcast, as you mentioned in the beginning, I do have a podcast, the K8 for Wellness podcast. And you can find it on any platform that you like to listen to your podcast on. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. It was so nice to meet you, and I appreciate it. We'll be seeing you around the carnivore community, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today and celebrating my 1 year. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.